ARRLNTS Net Brantley at 6:30 p.m. W5FC. This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9.
Good evening, everyone. This is NV5F. My name is Virginia, and in a few minutes, I will be your net control for Skynet, starting at 9 o'clock. So if you need to use the repeater for any reason before we begin the net, please do so now. Thanks again, and this is NV5F.
Dallas Races Net, first and third Sunday, 8 p.m., W5FC. W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Good evening, everyone. This is NV5F. My name is Virginia, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to identify themselves at the end of each transmission. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Look for tonight's announcement and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air. And don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we will continue to do that too, over the air or on Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is approximately 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. First, we'll have general announcements. Next, we'll have a Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. Next, we'll have National Space Society events, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening, what's up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, and if we have time, astronomical Q&A and a 73 round. Amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people already checked in via the w5fc.org online check-in. So far we have KE5ICX, Tom in Corpus Christi, K6MCD, Cody in Dallas, N5BB, Bill in Irving, WB5OZL, Brenda in LaGrange, KF5JHA, Bob the Cat and Chaz on Earth, NV5F, that's me, Virginia in Fort Worth, NT5TM, Tony in Bird City, AA5AH, Robert in Richardson. Next, we will take over-the-air short-time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from if you are a short-time check-in. Please come now. Okay, nothing heard there. Next, we will have general check-ins. These are over-the-air RF check-ins. Please come now with your name, your call sign, and your location.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB4MFI, Ted Dallas, low power.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in North Carrollton.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far northeast Dallas.
Okay, so far the net recognizes K5JDW, John in Coppell, KF5ZBL, Bill in Farmers Branch, WB4MFI, Ted in Dallas, KG5WVL, James in Carrollton, and W5GUS, Gus in Dallas. And don't worry, we'll take check-ins again in a few minutes. Next, let's take Echolink check-ins. I do have several people here on Echolink. Let's see, it looks like there's some duplicates for the other check-in modes. And we also have, in addition to those, we have Jimmy, KD5LQD. And all the rest of them appear to be ones that we've already checked in. So that's Echolink at the moment. Jimmy, would you like to check in via voice? If not, I've already just got you on the list. Okay, all's quiet there. We'll just assume that Jimmy is listening. All right, again, this is Virginia. My call sign is NV5F, and you're listening to Skynet. Next, we're going to do a free-for-all, open check-ins, any mode, any power. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Kilo India 5, Juliet, Charlie, Mike, Thomas, and Euless.
Okay, we've added KI5JCM, Thomas, and Euless. Thank you for checking in. All right, well, let's get started. First, we have general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come now with your announcements.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo.
Okay, I got two. I got NT5TM and N5BB, so we'll start with Tony. Go ahead with your announcements.
Thank you Virginia. Tonight's Afterglow movie discussion will focus on the movie Deep Space from 1992. And we'll discuss it right here, starting about 10:30-ish or so. The White Rock Lake Amateur Radio Club in-person meeting is this Wednesday. Well, the next one. Join us at 6:30 Wednesday night in the community room of the Dallas REI store. That store is on the north side of Northwest Highway, just east of US 75. The White Rock Lake Amateur Radio Club will also host a radio play day in the park this coming Saturday at Dreyfus Point at White Rock Lake. It's going to run roughly from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., depending on how much fun we're having. Come and go as you like. Bring what you want. We'll probably be experimenting with making and using simple wire antennas. That's usually what we do. And all are welcome, club member or not. And finally, the UHF satellite and fox hunting antenna build from September has been rescheduled to 2 weeks from today, Saturday, October 25th. Join us at 10 a.m. in the third floor community room at the Dallas Medical Center, not the REI, the Dallas Medical Center, the same place as the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meets. The kit cost is still just $10. That's what I've got. NT5TM, back to net.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Lots of good, fun stuff coming up, including tonight's Afterglow at 10:30. All right, next we have N5BB with announcements. Bill, what have you got for us?
Okay, thank you, Virginia. This is N5BB. By the way, I'm mobile, so I won't be able to start the National Space Society section for about another 10 minutes. So, just letting you know that. The Dallas Area Races Council, this is the group of cities currently in Dallas County which have races groups, meets once a quarter. Our next meeting would be a week from today, next Saturday, in Irving, at the City of Irving facility. I know there's at least one radio officer that's listening here tonight. I want to encourage you to please read the emails that I've sent you in the last couple of days. There are 2 different polls I need you to respond to. So just wanted to alert Dallas racing officers in each of the cities in Dallas County to look at your emails, check it for ones from me involving the Races Council meeting next week. That's all I've got. This is N5BB.
Whiskey 2 Tango Tango Tango.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. And if we get to your stuff and you're not at your radio yet, I will just put it out of order with some other stuff. We'll get it in when you're available. I also heard a N5 Tango Tango Tango. Are you wishing to check into Skynet?
It's Whiskey 2 Tango Tango Tango. Name is Gordon, yes, and as long as I hold up on Interstate 30 heading toward Texarkana, just wanted to make a quick announcement that next week is also Scouting Jamboree on the Air next weekend from 0 hours 30 beginning of Saturday, so it's Friday night, to Sunday evening. Just want to make that announcement. And back to that, W2TTT.
W2TTT NV5S. I'm sorry I got your call wrong. I think I conflated it with Bill's call sign just now. So thank you for joining us mobile, and hope you can listen in for quite a while before you lose us. And thank you for the reminder about JOTA coming up. That's always a fun event every October. So appreciate you being there. Thanks very much. Nice to hear from you. Okay, let's see what is next. That was announcements. Other announcements. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time, you can check into the National AMSAT net, learn all about amateur satellites, and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or the new ones coming online. You will need Echolink installed and get registered. You can find the net under Groups and *AMSAT*. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. There are also 2 local AMSAT nets available in the Dallas area. Both of these nets encourage active check-ins. You can also ask questions of the net control as well as the others who are checked in. The AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL tone 110.9. On Tuesdays, the usual net control is Tom, N5HYP. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT East that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington Club repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL tone 110.9. Positive offset. The DARC also hosts a number of nets every evening of the week. There are a lot of them, and I will suggest that you go to W5FC.org and click on the tab showing nets to get the schedule for the nets. We do have different nets each Monday evening at 7, and let's see, it looks like this second Monday will be IMCOM 101. That's the second Monday every month. So if you want to learn about IMCOM, in general, emergency communications, join us here on this repeater Monday at 7. But please go to the website to find out the very nice schedule of nets taking place on this repeater. Next is tonight's Afterglow movie info, and we will ask Tom, KE5ICX, if he has the synopsis for tonight's Afterglow movie. KE5ICX from NV5F. Take it away, Tom.
Thank you, Virginia. This is KE5ICX, and here is my highly accurate synopsis of tonight's movie. Napier stared at the script. It had his name on it. It was quite impossible, but he checked it over and over, and indeed his name was scrawled on the front, along with his phone number and hat size. He was about to star in his first movie since 20th Century Radio Shack brought him in at bargain basement prices to star in their one and only movie, Citizen Band. They were excited when they realized he really could deliver dialogue and press the push-to-talk button on their top-of-the-line CD radio, all while not forgetting his line, like so many other actors had done in their auditions. He was a true professional. The director appeared and described the next scene. Okay, Chuck, you're going to have a fist fight with the alien creature, subdue him, or it, and then read its Miranda rights. Afterwards, you'll stuff the creature into the back of my Toyota, painted to look like a police car, and then drive it over that cliff over there. Remember to wear your seatbelt belt. We don't want any accidental accidents, just intentional. Action, shouted the director before Napier could object. Unfortunately, nothing came out of his mouth except lying. The director shouted cut, and the production stopped. A runner was summoned and reappeared with a CB radio clutched in his hands. Okay, Chuck, when it's time for your line, I want you to say, Breaker, Breaker, 19. We have an alien in custody, 10-4, or something like that. Remember to press this little button. It worked. Napier remembered his lines. As the Toyota careened over the cliff with Napier inside, the cast and crew broke into applause. This movie was going to be something to someone. So join us for Deep Space, and I did put the wrong date in. It says 1992, but no, that's too far in the future. The movie actually came out in 1988. With the infamous actor Chuck heading out to Eden, Napier. Yeah, he was the space hippie in Star Trek. That's tonight at 10:30 p.m. If you want to see the movie or kind of sneak a peek, you can see a wonderful blurry vision of it over on YouTube. Just go to the club website, click on the hot link for Deep Space from 1988, and you'll be able to watch the film. That's it. Back to you. Thank you, Virginia. KE5 ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. That was lovely. What a horrible movie. Okay, you can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org, including the wonderful Afterglow movie information. Okay, let's see. We currently have, let's see if we have any more people checked in over the website. We have added AG9SG Antonio in Dallas, so thank you for checking in online. And I will now take additional voice check-ins. Any mode, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, nothing heard. Next, we're going to Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. This is with Chaz, KF5JHA. Let us know what's coming up.
Thank you, Virginia. Luckily, Bob the cat is not beside the computer nor the radio, so that's a good thing. On October the 24th, in a couple of weeks, is the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. There's also a Zoom component. The featured speakers could be Ryan Bennett from UNT. He was actually a former faculty member at the Brookhaven campus of Dallas College, so his informational talk will be really interesting. The Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas hosts Saturday night public observing sessions in the DFW area. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. On the second Saturday of the month, that's tonight, the stargazing is held at Frisco. Do we have a ham radio operator at the stargazing that would like to make a report? Come now with your call sign if you'd like to do so. I think it's a little bit too far for the radio signal to get from Frisco to other repeater, but Echolink it would be okay. So anyway, if you'd like to check the TASS website at texasastro.org, you can get up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. I'm sure they're looking at the planet Saturn, and there's a lot of deep sky objects, stars like Alberio, and many more things up there in the sky that they're probably looking at. So, back to you, Virginia. This is KF5JHA.
Okay, thank you very much, Chaz. Next, we do have National Space Society events and activities. I will call on Bill N5BB. Have you made it back to your station for these announcements?
Yes, perfect timing, Virginia. I'm here at the microphone in my station, in the base station. This is N5BB. I happen to be the Vice President and the Membership Director of the National Space Society. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next meeting will be held tomorrow, Sunday afternoon, October the 12th. The topic will be near-Earth asteroids. What can we do about them? By our chapter president, Ken Ruffin. Our meetings are also available virtually. Contact Bill, November 5, Bravo, Bravo, if you would like to attend. Anyone can walk into the meeting, and you can also attend it virtually if you ask me, and I'll send you the credentials. On the last Friday evening of each month from 6 to 8 p.m., last Friday of each month from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter usually sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. However, the October 31st Space Rendezvous will be canceled due to the Halloween holiday. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, November 5, Bravo, Bravo, at his QRZ listed email address or at space@byrum.net. SPACE@BYROM.net. And that's all I have, Virginia. This is N5BB, turning it back to the net.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. And I am Virginia, MD5F, and you're listening to Skynet, the net for astronomy and anything space. All right, next, speaking of space, is recent astronomical discoveries, and it looks like our host for that tonight is Tom, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Virginia. This is actually Brenda put this together, but and she is out of town right now. She's on a seminar, so she couldn't get in. She is listening, and this is the article that she picked up from Science Daily called "Scientists Uncovered a Hidden Power Source Inside a Monster Black Hole." And it reads as follows: 100 years before the Event Horizon Telescope collaboration released its first image of a black hole in 2019, located at the heart of the galaxy M87, astronomer Heber Curtis had already discovered a strange jet protruding from the galaxy's center. Today we know this is to be a jet of a black hole M87. Such jets also are emitted by other black holes. Theoretical astrophysicists at Ghost University have now developed a numerical code to describe with high mathematical precision how black holes transform their rotational energy into such ultra-fast jets. For nearly 2 centuries, it was unclear that the bright spot in the constellation Virgo, which Charles Messier has described in 1781 as 87 nebula without stars, was in fact a very large galaxy. As a result, there was initially no explanation for the strange jet discovered in 1918 emerging from the center of this nebula. At the heart of the giant galaxy M87 lies a black hole for M87, star I guess it is, which contains a staggering 6.5 billion solar masses and spins rapidly on its axis. Using the energy from this rotation, M87 star powers a particle jet expelled at nearly the speed of light, stretching across an immense 5,000 light years. Such jets are also generated by other rotating black holes. They contribute to dispersed energy and matter throughout the universe and can influence the evolution of entire galaxies. The team of astrophysicists at Ghost University Frankfurt, led by Professor Luciano Razzolia, has developed a numerical code named the Frankfurt Particle in Cell Code for Black Hole spacetimes, or FPIC, which describes with high precision the process that converts rotational energy into particle jets. The result, in addition to the Blanford-Zanchek mechanism, which has so far been considered responsible for the extraction of rotational energy from a black hole via strong magnetic fields, the scientists have revealed that another process is involved in the energy extraction, namely magnetic reconnection. In this process, the magnetic field lines break and reassemble, leading to magnetic energy being converted into heat, radiation, and eruptions of plasma. The FPIC code simulated the evolution of the vast number of charged particles and extreme electromagnetic fields under the influence of the black hole's strong gravity. Dr. Claudio Maringiolo, the main developer of the code, explains simulating such processes is crucial for understanding the complex dynamics of relativistic plasmas and curved space-time near compact objects, which are governed by the interplay of extreme gravitational and magnetic fields. The investigations required high-demanding supercomputer simulations that consume millions of CPU hours at Frankfurt's Goethe supercomputer at Stuttgart's Hawk. This large computing power was essential to solve Maxwell's equations and the equations of motion for electrons and positrons according to Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity. In the equatorial plane of the black hole, the researchers' calculations revealed intense reconnection activity leading to the formation of a chain of plasmoids, a condensation of plasma in energetic bubbles moving at nearly the speed of light. According to the scientists, this process is accomplished by the generation of particles with negative energy that is used to power extreme astrophysical phenomena like jets and plasma eruptions. Our results opened up the fascinating possibility that the Blanford-Zank mechanism is not the only astrophysical process capable of extracting rotational energy from a black hole. This is, says Dr. Filippo Camilloni, who also worked on the FPIC project, but that magnetic reconnection also contributes. With our work, we can demonstrate how energy is effectively extracted from rotating black holes and channeled into jets. This allows us to help explain the extreme luminosities of active galactic nuclei, as well as the acceleration of particles to nearly the speed of light. He adds that it is incredibly exciting and fascinating to better understand what happens near a black hole using sophisticated numerical codes. At the same time, it is even more rewarding to be able to explain the results of these complex simulations with a rigorous mathematical treatment as we have done our work. That's what he says. So there you have it, another exciting discovery and report on black holes. Back to you, Virginia. This is KE5 ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Appreciate you reading Linda's article. She likes to have articles about black holes. I think it's one of her favorites. All right, well, that leads to me, your net control, Virginia NV5F, and discussion topic of the evening. This is kind of less about facts. It's more about food for thought on just space and society, and the article had really cool illustrations, so if you want to see them, go over to YouTube and go to the Skynet channel and look at the illustrations, because I'm sure the slide master will show them while I read this presentation. So I chose this article because, for one thing, it has cool illustrations. I said that before. And it scratches the surface of the stark contrast between what many thought our future in space would be back in the 70s versus what actually came true or did not come true or come to pass. I like the idea of it. However, I feel the author might have had limited background knowledge or perhaps little time to research the topic. Still, it's kind of an interesting article. It is the tip of an iceberg featuring the visions of the writer Gerald K. O'Neill, who has historical significance regarding our late 20th century hope for man in space, as well as significance in the founding of what is now the National Space Society. I'm tempted to read this book. His book was called The High Frontier, and I've added my own annotations to this, expanding upon and at moments disagreeing with some of the analysis given in this article. What a surprise, right? Me opinionated? That's crazy. Well, in all fairness, I do try to be fair based on my own set of knowledge on this subject matter. I hope this sparks others, including myself, to explore the history, not of space travel, but what we as a culture once thought it might be in the 21st century. This article is from space.com, and it's written by Keith Cooper, came out a few days ago, and it's called How One Scientist's Wide-Eyed Dream of Giant Space Cities Was Crushed by Reality. It's kind of a sad article. And the sort of subheadline says, they might have looked something like the space station in the film 2001, A Space Odyssey. Here's my note. I wish there had been more in here about 2001 and its influence on O'Neill. I didn't necessarily choose the article because it mentioned 2001 right up front, but that's just a bonus. So here we go with the text of the actual article. I will interject a few annotations, and I will indicate when I'm doing that. So there once was a dream of cities in space, vast cylindrical habitats, self-sufficient and populated by millions who would look down on Earth from their lofty perch. Back in the 1970s, one serious scientist believed that by now, this dream would have been a reality. That scientist was Princeton University professor of physics Gerald K. O'Neill. And for a few years, his dream of living in space made him a household name. He appeared on television, wrote a best-selling book, and was invited to testify before the U.S. Congress about his vision for the future. It's all a far cry from the reality of 2025, where not many people get the chance to live in space. Save for the 290 astronauts who have spent time on the International Space Station so far, as well as the handful of astronauts who have been stationed on various simple space stations such as Russian Mir or China's Tiangong. O'Neill's vision was best described in his book, The High Frontier, first published in 1976. In it, O'Neill explained how, as early as 1990 and as late as 2005, we would be able to build vast cities in space at gravitationally stable L5 Lagrange points between Earth and the Moon, each habitat home to several million people. The concept became so popular that a fan club even sprung up, and it was called the L5 Society, which declared as its motto, L5 by 95. And here's my note. The L5 Society merged with the National Space Institute to form the National Space Society in 1987. One of the keys to the idea's success was rotation to produce a centrifugal force mimicking gravity on the inside surface of the cylinder. O'Neill envisaged different sized spherical and cylindrical habitats in a ring-shaped variation known as the Stanford Torus, not dissimilar to the wheel-shaped space station in 2001: A Space Odyssey. But his largest model, Island 3, would have been 4 times 6.4 kilometers wide and 20 miles, 32 kilometers long. So, or 4 miles rather, 4 miles and 4 miles wide and 20 miles long. Inside, on the interior surface, would have been 500 square miles, 1,294 square kilometers of living space, including homes, recreational centers, rivers, and parkland. Science fiction fans might recognize this description as describing the interior of Babylon 5, the space station, from the popular series, which was designed with a nod to O'Neill and which was also used rotation to simulate gravity. Here's my note. It's actually, I think, more likely borrowed from the concept of a large, or very likely borrowed from the concept of a large, hollow rotating cylinder used in the novel Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke. And you will have to pardon me, I believe Arthur C. Clarke got this idea from somewhere else. I read about it recently, and I could not tell you for the life of me exactly who came up with that. But Babylon 5 very well could have been based on O'Neill's idea. But the illustration in this article, one of the interior illustrations looks very much like some concept art of the large object named Rama in Arthur C. Clarke's Rendezvous with Rama. It was a large hollow cylinder that was full of all kinds of stuff. It had on its interior. It had this whole landscape. Okay, back to the article. Living in one of these space habitats would be clean. Industry and agriculture would be based in separate, smaller cylinders close to the main habitat. Commuting between cylinders would take mere minutes, traveling in commuter spheres accelerated by electric motors along a cable, costing, O'Neill claimed, 50 cents per passenger in the 1970s money. It all sounds grand, and after decades of disappointment and lost ambition in space, perhaps a little too far-fetched. O'Neill was no crank, though. He believed in a different era, one fueled by the potential for space travel following the testing ground that was the Apollo program. O'Neill was a fan of science fiction, so space stations were probably always a concept he had been familiar with. But the real seed for O'Neill's high frontier came when he was assigned to teach introductory physics at Princeton in 1969. Despite the glories of Apollo, increasing disillusionment with the Vietnam War led many would-be graduates to doubt whether a career in science and technology was worth it, worried that they would be swallowed up by the military-industrial complex, while balancing that with the increasing awakening of environmental concerns spurred by the text of books such as Rachel Carson's Silent Spring. Realizing he had a challenge on his hands in making his courses inspiring enough to change the minds of his students, O'Neill set about developing engineering problems that also incorporated economic and social aspects for his students to discuss and develop answers to. The first question he set them was, is the surface of a planet the best location for a technological society to live? O'Neill clearly thought not, but it wasn't just science fiction dreams. His idea in the high frontier were in part a response to the Club of Rome's controversial 1972 report, Limits to Growth, which was a depressing future of overpopulation, environmental damage, and resource depletion. The carrying capacity of the planet was being exceeded, the report concluded. Goodness knows what its authors would think of the situation on Earth right now. And unable to resist temptation, I had to write a note here, and my note reads as follows. I think some of the academics of the 60s and 70s might be disappointed that the terrible things they predicted about the environment and overpopulation just didn't come true. This theme was actually even a primary theme in the opening of Arthur C. Clarke's novel version of 2001. By the second novel in his Odyssey series, which was written in the early 80s, 2010, these themes were pretty much gone. The report was not without, back to the article. The report was not without its critics, however, who believed that it did not account for technology alleviating at least some of the problems foretold in it. In particular, argued O'Neill, if the Earth's carrying capacity is being exceeded, then why not just move beyond Earth? Space provides plenty of access to raw materials, solar power, living space, and somewhere to put dirty industry without polluting Earth's environment. The 1970s already had, or was close to having, all the technology that we would need to build these space habitats, said O'Neill, writing in The High Frontier. He explained how Island 3 is efficient enough in the use of materials that it could be built in the early years of the next, which is next, in this case, 21st century. So then we move on to O'Neill's idea. Most of the raw materials would come from mining the moon and near-Earth asteroids, and those materials would then be transported for assembly at the L5 via a technology called a mass driver. A mass driver is a kind of electromagnetic slingshot powered by sunlight. It would use superconductors along a track to generate an electromagnetic field to accelerate payloads to escape velocity from the surface of the moon or an asteroid. Because there's no fuel to worry about, there could be a conveyor belt of launches, one after the other. Mass drivers are another technology presented in Babylon 5, but there they were used as a weapon to bombard a planet with asteroids. Living in space isn't just about floating about in a windowless tin can. As already mentioned, rotation to simulate the effect of gravity would be an important step. Studies in centrifuges on Earth show that most humans can cope with a rate of between 1 and 3 rotations per minute, but anything above 4 rotations is liable to disrupt our inner ear and make us nauseous and ill. This rate of rotation has a bearing on the dimensions of the habitat, if the aim is to simulate Earth gravity. So that the habitat is stable, there would need to be 2 counter-rotating cylinders attached end to end. Some form of day-night cycle is also essential. The biology of terrestrial life has evolved over 4 billion years around such a cycle, and taking earthly life out of it is not going to be healthy in the long run. So the habitats would be required to simulate it. O'Neill envisaged that each cylinder could be split into 6 sections, 3 window sections with inhabited valleys between them, topped off with hemispherical end caps. Thanks to a system of movable mirrors placed outside the windows, the sun could be seen to remain stationary as it shines through the windows, even though the cylinder is really rotating. The length of day and seasonal cycles could be regulated by varying the angle of the mirrors with respect to the sun, which the long axis of the cylinders would point toward. The amount of sunlight would be an important part of creating a biosphere in the habitats. O'Neill wanted his space nations to be self-sufficient, but creating a viable biosphere is potentially the most difficult aspect of the entire endeavor. To provide for millions of people requires more than simple hydroponics, which is growing plants without soil. A biosphere depends on its soil layer to provide a life support system, but Earth's current soil layer has had millions of years of development alongside the evolution of life from microbes to large, complex animals, which have all contributed to the soil. Recreating that in just a few years and getting the biochemistry correct would be no easy feat. Instead, it might require lots of experimental trial and error to avoid ending up with dead, failed habitats. This would certainly delay how quickly the habitat could be built and populated. However, get it right, and the interior wall of the cylinder between the windows could be filled with parkland, much like what is seen in science fiction, for example, inside the drum of Babylon 5 space station, or the interior of Novo Behemoth in The Expanse. And I put in brackets here, Rendezvous with Brahma, which is a great book, mostly for its imagery and cool theory about what might be possible in a hollow cylinder in space. It appears, therefore, that space can provide the ideal condition for a highly efficient, totally recycling agriculture no longer at the mercy of weather or climate, wrote O'Neill in The High Frontier. Before I get to the next section of the article, I will say, this is Virginia. My call sign is NV5F, and you are listening to Skynet. Next section is the problems, and by that it means the problems with this whole idea. So where did O'Neill's plans all go wrong? After all, there's nothing physically impossible about building such habitats. What made the concept so appealing to O'Neill is that it didn't require any major magic technology, just a lot of challenging engineering problems to be solved. Nevertheless, the criticism that could be applied is that O'Neill was too confident in the technology and engineering that would be required. The best that we've built in space so far has been the International Space Station. The kind of technologies required for something like Island 3 or even the smaller, simpler spherical models of Island 1 and Island 2 are completely untested even now. With dedication and sufficient funding and resources, we could hone our skills, but it would take time. It wouldn't be something we could rush. And here's my note for this section. To this day, we still have not tried or proved the use of artificial gravity, which has become a trope in lots of modern science fiction movies, starting with 2001. I know that's kind of on the table to be started up on some space stations, but we haven't even tried that yet. Back to the article. A second problem was failure of the space shuttle. When the space shuttle was first conceived, the plane was to have hundreds of launches per year, which would have created its capacity to build the infrastructure in space that would have allowed mining on the moon or ferried millions of people into orbit. Instead, between the shuttle's inaugural flight in 1981 and its final flight in 2011, the 6 shuttles managed only 135 space flights between them. The cost of building a 20-mile-long space habitat was also somewhat vague, with O'Neill estimating up to $200 billion in 1970s money, which is, accounting for inflation, would be $1.1 trillion in 2025. In addition, there's also some troubling social concerns. If the aim is to alleviate overpopulation on Earth, then space habitats are not the answer. Having even tens of millions of people living in space really isn't going to help when there's over 8 billion people on the planet. And here's my note. This has always been the problem. Human habitation in space or another planet like Mars is basically a solution looking for a problem. The argument of alleviating overpopulation or saving humanity from a disaster or environmental concerns is not a justification for the cost and difficulty of taking a few tens of millions of people off of planet Earth. This is the problem with the Elon Musk claims to be doing with the plans to colonize Mars. The only real reason I can find for doing this sort of thing is because we want to. All right, back to our article section. There's also the troubling question of who gets to live in paradise in space. And believe me, this is another note from me. Space is not paradise. Space is cold and vacuous and very, very harsh. Okay, back to the article. Away from Earth's faltering climate, wars, natural disasters, and dirty environment, which are all very much easier to live in than space. That's me again. Regardless of all the good intentions of visionaries such as O'Neill, the history of human cities and civilizations as a whole tells us that it is more likely to be the rich who can afford to travel into and live in space. Of course, a city of millions of people is going to require tradespeople, teachers, police, administrators, sanitation engineers, and so on. All the people that a regular on Earth needs to function. And these people might not be rich per se, but are such workers more likely to come from richer nations. And here's another note of mine. This has been an issue since the start of the space program, when many could not find a justification, even for the cost to the United States to send people to the moon. Many argued that amount of money would be better spent on problems right here on the ground. All right, back to the text. If so, then again, space habitats would simply widen the gap between richer and poorer nations. Would people from developing countries get a fair chance of living or going to live in a space habitat? Engineering fair and equal access to space might be an even bigger challenge than engineering the design and building of the habitats in the first place. On the plus side, space habitats would create a place where humans might avoid any disaster that takes place on Earth, thereby reducing the risk of human extinction. It could be argued that long-term survival is the best reason for humanity to venture into space. There's also a more abstract reason why we should lament the failure of O'Neill's vision. The 1970s concept of space habitats is a demonstration of the vision that we once had in our technology and in ourselves, a vision that in the intervening years seems to have left us. From the vantage point of the 1970s, the 21st century was to be a far-flung time of hope and riches and technological wonders. Yet today, in the real 21st century of war and growing authoritarianism and sectarianism and environmental catastrophe, we are left to ask, did we fail the future, or did the future fail us? So I would say, here's a note from me here, and I would say that we could spend a lot less money here, or the same amount of money and time here on Earth, and try to create this wonderful vision just here on Earth for people. It would be a lot. It would help a lot more people, I guess, if we spent some of that time and resources and money to solve problems here. And another note I have, I do openly question the obligatory inclusion in this article of environmental catastrophe right here. I still think this has yet to be proved out. In fact, in the 70s, the climate disaster folks were predicting the next ice age. As for the rest of it, we are certainly in a cycle of geopolitics, not unlike the unrest which is going on in the mid-60s during the dawning of the space age. The difference is now that people once looked towards space with hope that the inspiring just because, or if it could bring, that just because of it could just bring humanity together. And now, unfortunately, space has become quite commonplace, so commonplace that most people don't pay much attention to it anymore. Of course, that present company here on Skynet is accepted. Anyway, those are my thoughts sprinkled in with this kind of opinion article about sort of what has kept us from those dreams of what we thought space could be when we were at full throttle in the 60s. Of the Apollo program and our race to space. So that's it for me for this presentation. Virginia, MD5F, your net control. Does anyone here have any questions or comments for tonight's presentation? Please come now with your call sign.
KI5JCM comment.
ICX.
All right. I will go. Let's see. We got KI5JCM and KE5ICX. So come now, Thomas, with your comment.
Am I the only person that hears the last segment from Mel Brooks' History of the World, Jews in Space? I'm going to have that song stuck in my head now for a while.
Okay, thanks, Thomas. Now it's stuck in my head, too. Appreciate that. I'm going to have to go on YouTube tonight and find that. Tom, KE5ICX. We got a Tom and a Thomas. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, thank you, Virginia. I have that book. I had that book. I bought it at the local bookstore, and I kept it for many years. I lost it, I think, after I did a move in 1979. I never did find it again, but I love that book. It was highly impractical, obviously. I mean, we had just launched and had used the Skylab space station, which barely made it to orbit. It had problems with using a modified Saturn V, with pieces coming down just from that alone. The size of that space station is modest by even today's standards, but it was still huge at the time. Things didn't go so well with that, and I also at the same time was Rendezvous with Rama had come out in 1973 as a book, and I thought I was totally enamored with that. This was a logical follow-on, and it just wasn't practical in any way, shape, or form. So those were the things that had disillusioned me. Of course, too, having lived through that and knowing when the last we were in between really any space adventures going on. The Skylab was the last of the Apollo program, so there was nothing left. I mean, maybe I remember the space program and the moon missions and how that was great. We were going to move on, and O'Neill's story was sort of a leftover from that time period and overly optimistic. I know that you mentioned about the Vietnam War and all of that, and that's true. But it was just a hangover after the Apollo program, and all of this grandiose stuff just wasn't going to happen. And none of the 2001 stuff was going to happen in the way that we had hoped it would. So, yeah, I lived through that time. I remember all of the materials and all the things that you talked about, and I remember as a personal thing, realizing there was a big, this isn't going to be possible because the technology isn't there, nor is the will to go. Oh well, big sigh again, that'll never happen, but maybe we'll do something on the moon. Maybe the platform there is better, but even Elon Musk is having issues with heavy lifts and trying to get things into space, and even to the moon is being rather troublesome this time around. Back to you, Virginia, KE5ICX.
Okay, KE5ICX, NG5F. Thank you for those good thoughts. Yeah, I would like to read that book, and I do think there was a lot of lofty thinking, considering that the people we were sending into space were just surviving. I mean, they were literally packed in a tin can, about as tight as you could get them, and they would splash down, and the guys would open the capsule and almost be knocked over by the wall of, funk that had accumulated in this capsule that was designed to just keep 3 guys alive when they went to the moon. So we were, and now I think we're in the same situation. The smaller percentage of people that pay attention to space are all locked in on going to the moon and going to Mars, but the Mars stuff is like, to me, it's pretty far-fetched. I think Elon Musk is, I think he's using the hype to fund his high-priced pet projects that are, it's like a kid playing with a bunch of big explosives. In South Texas, anyway. You get to see it sometimes. But I do love space. I love science fiction. I love the subject. I love the topic. And I love the imagery and the vision of it all. And I might just read that book for just for context and for history. So I had figured somebody here had read it. So I'm glad you chimed in. Thanks, Tom. All right. Time to move on to, speaking of space, it's time to move on to What's Up? With Chaz, let's find out what's going on in the sky. Take it away, Chaz.
What's our motto at the end of Skynet? The sky is never the limit? Yeah. Oh, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all about what's gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. That was slide number 2. Slide master is Tom. Thank you. That would be Tom KC5ICX. He's our slide master on the YouTube version of Skynet, which is a video version. Just go to our W5FC.org and you can click on the link and follow along with Skynet online if you want to with YouTube. Slide master, slide number 3. We've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness around 10th magnitude. I just checked it a little bit ago, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. Now, T Corona Borealis was supposed to go nova more than a year ago. Now, new predictions are November 10th of this year, that's in about a month, or June the 25th of 2026. We don't know when it's going to go supernova, but not supernova. It won't be supernova, it's just going to be nova. When it does go nova, T Corona Borealis could become inside its North Star, which is second magnitude. Now, I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from my very light-polluted location here in Mesquite, Texas. Slide master, slide number 4, please. Now, this image from today of October 11th is from spaceweather.com of the sun. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you can just use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. That's happened a couple of times over the last 6 months. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not quite sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. I just talked about the solar cycle about 5 months ago on Skynet. Slide master, slide number 5. I've talked about a couple of comets in the sky. One was Comet Swan, but the picture that you're looking at, the video version, is Comet C2025A6, also known as Comet Lemon. It may be bright enough to be seen in binoculars in the morning sky. This image was taken by myself from Mesquite, Texas, yesterday morning, Friday, October the 10th. Now, SkyMaps.com has a finder chart of the comet in its current location. That would be of Comet Swan, but Comet Lemon is in the morning sky. Right now, Comet Lemon is visible in the eastern morning sky. And about twilight, yesterday morning when I was imaging it with my C-Star, it was about 1/3 of the way up in the sky, so it's pretty high up. You can easily spot it with binoculars if you look at it. I think it's in the constellation of Ursa Major right now. Slide master, slide number 6. On October the 6th was the full moon, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. On October the 13th, the moon is at its 3rd quarter phase. On October the 21st is the new moon. On October 23rd, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth, at a distance of 406,444 kilometers. First quarter moon is on October the 29th. Full moon is on November the 5th. Also on November the 5th, the moon is at perigee, which is a point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 356,833 kilometers. Slide master, slide number 7. On October the 14th is the conjunction of the moon and Jupiter high in the eastern morning sky. Slide master, slide number 8. On October the 16th is the conjunction of Regulus and the moon in the eastern morning sky. Yep, you can see all of Leo in the early morning sky over there in the east. Slide master, slide number 9. On October 17th, the planets Mars and Mercury are in conjunction in the western evening sky. You'll probably need binoculars to spot them because it'll be strong twilight when you need to look for them. And slide master, slide number 10. On October 17th, 18th is the peak of the Geminid meteor shower, with around maybe half a dozen meteors per hour. Most of the time you'll see most of the meteors just the hour before dawn. To get a detailed information about how to observe meteors and meteor showers, you can visit the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 11. On October 19th is the conjunction of the Moon and Venus in the eastern morning sky. I'm still seeing Venus kind of low in the east, but it's there in the early morning sky. Slide Master, slide number 12. Now, one of the major meteor showers is on October the 21st, 22nd, that night. It's the peak of the Orion meteor shower. You could have between 20 and 50 meteors per hour. Now, once again, most of the time you'll see the majority, highest number of meteors in an hour just before dawn. To get detailed information, once again, go to IMO.net or amsmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 13. On October the 23rd, there's a conjunction of the Moon, Mercury, and Mars in the northwestern evening sky. And Slide Master, slide number 14, on October the 24th, the conjunction of the Moon and the bright star Antares in the southwestern evening sky. This is KF5 JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 15. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Okay, that brings us to slide number 16. So as the moon wanes, so do these words for this segment of Skynet: stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. Until next time, well, actually, I might be doing another segment on Skynet if we've got enough time. So keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5 JHA. This is Skynet transmitting on the W5FC repeater at 146.88 megahertz. Back to our net control. Virginia, it's yours.
All righty, thank you, Chaz. This is Virginia in V5F. Next we have space exploration and space history. So this is with Gus, I believe. Gus, W5GUS, are you here to read space exploration and space history?
Yes, thank you, Virginia. W5GUS here with Space Exploration News. We'll start this off with a bang. A team of astronomers led by Northwestern University has captured the clearest and most detailed view ever of a dying star before its explosion. Using NASA's James Webb Space Telescope, the international group identified the source of a supernova known as a progenitor in mid-infrared light for the first time. When combined with archival observations from the Hubble Space Telescope, the data revealed that the blast originated from a massive red supergiant star wrapped in an unexpected blanket of dust. This breakthrough may finally explain why astronomers rarely see red supergiants explode, even though models predict they should account for most core collapse supernovae. The new findings suggest these enormous stars do explode, but are often hidden from view by thick dust clouds. So thanks to James Webb Space Telescope powerful infrared vision, scientists can now see through the obscuring dust
bridging the long-standing gap between theory and observation. Okay, headline here. A stream of solar winds is approaching Earth. A hole has opened in the sun's atmosphere, and it is venting a stream of solar wind directly toward Earth. This is a coronal hole, a region in the sun's atmosphere where magnetic fields open up and allow solar wind to escape. Coronal holes look dark because the glowing hot plasma normally contained there is missing. A stream of solar wind flowing from its coronal hole should reach Earth tomorrow, October 12th. Its arrival could spark G1 class geomagnetic storms. And the odds of storming are increased by the Russell-McPherson effect, a McPherson effect, which links the magnetic fields of the sun and Earth during weeks around equinoxes. So stay tuned for that for tomorrow. And with that, we'll move to space-related birthdays. Okay, October 7th, 1969, Karen Nyberg was born. She was on STS-124. And Soyuz TMA-09, Expedition 3637. And the next one, October 8th, Robert Gilruth was born on October 8th, 1913. He had no flights, but he was the director of NASA's Manned Spacecraft Center, now Lyndon B. Johnson Space Center. All right, and back to birthdays. Janice Voss, VOSS, was born on October 8th, 1956. She was on STS-57, STS-63, STS-83, and STS-99er. And October 9th, 1924, Robert Rushworth was he did the X-15 Flight 87. On October 10th, 1958, John M. Grunsfeld was born. He was on STS-67, STS-81, STS-103, STS-109, and STS-125. All right. Also on October 10th, but in 1962, 4 years later, Rex Walheim was born. He was on STS-110. STS-122, STS-135. And the last birthday was Gordon Fullerton, October 11th, 1936. He was a STS-3 alternate and STS-51. All right, we'll move on into the short space history here, just a couple articles. Apollo 7, on October 11th, this day in 1968, Apollo 11 was launched, and it was the first crewed flight in NASA's Apollo program, and saw the resumption of human spaceflight by the agency after the fire that killed the 3 Apollo 1 astronauts during a launch rehearsal test on January 27, 67. The Apollo 7 crew was commanded by Walter M. Schirra, with command pilot Don F. Eisel and lunar module pilot Walter Cunningham. Even though the Apollo 7 did not carry a lunar module, Cunningham went along just to fill that seat. Okay, Apollo 11 was launched on October 11, 68 from Cape Kennedy Air Force Station, Florida, and splashed down in the Atlantic Ocean 11 days later. Extensive testing took place, and also the first live television broadcast from an American spacecraft. Despite tension between the crew and ground controllers, the mission was a complete success, giving NASA the confidence to send Apollo 8 into orbit around the moon 2 months later. In part because of these tensions, none of the Apollo 7 crew flew into space again, although Gerard had already announced he would retire from NASA after the flight. Apollo 7 fulfilled the Apollo's 1 mission of testing in low orbit and was a significant step towards NASA's goal of landing astronauts on the moon. Okay, and the last article was also on October 11th, but in 1984, the first U.S. extravehicular activity by a woman was accomplished. On October 11, 1984, astronaut Catherine Sullivan performed the first U.S. EVA extravehicular activity by a woman. NASA photo astronaut Catherine D. Sullivan checks the latch of the SIR-B antenna in the space shuttle Challenger's open cargo bay during her historic extravehicular activity on October 11, 1984. Okay, and that is it for this week's edition. So we will pass it back to Net Control for upcoming Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week with Chaz. Back to you, Virginia, W5GUS.
Comment inside BB.
Okay, thank you, Gus and Bill. I'm gonna try to get on to Chaz's bit here, just in the interest of time. I apologize. Chaz, KF5JJ, Constellation of the Week.
Thank you, Virginia. This will be short because the constellation is kind of a small constellation. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Lacerta, the lizard. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Lacerta is the 68th constellation in size, occupying an area of 201 square degrees. Lacerta contains no Messier objects. The name Lacerta does not have any underlying mythology. The constellation Lacerta, the lizard, was created by Polish astronomer Johannes Helvetius in 1687 to fill a void between Cassiopeia and Cygnus. In addition to the name Lacerta, which was the Latin word for lizard, he also offered up the name of Stellio, the stellion, for the constellation. A stellion is a type of lizard with star-like spots that lives in the area surrounding the Mediterranean Sea. The name stellion is derived from the Latin word means stella, which means, of course, star. Even though a starry lizard seems more appropriate than a plain lizard in the constellation, the name Lacerta won out, and we still call this constellation Lacerta today. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 18, the jokes of the week. Where does the lizard go after it drops its tail? Well, to the retail store. Get it? The retail store? Oh. Bob the cat, yep, he's right beside me, loves hunting lizards, but he never likes to kill them. He's just about the details. Get it? Oh. How much does a lizard weigh? It depends on the scales. What do you call a lizard that tells damaging lies about you? A slandermander. Okay, that was kind of a stretch. The doctor said to put a baby monitor in a crib with a baby. But I don't think lizards are very good pets for babies. Get it, a monitor. Okay, well, maybe that wasn't a good joke either. What do you call a dead prehistoric lizard? A dinosaur. This is KF5JHA. Slide master, slide number 19. Alpha Lacerta, the brightest star in Lacerta, shines at a brightness of 3.8. It's a visual double star with a companion star about 36 arc minutes from Alpha, shining at a magnitude of 11.8. The two stars are not really associated with one another in space, but simply appear along the same line of sight. Rho 47, a multiple star system, with all 5 stars. Wow, 5 stars. The two brightest stars shine at magnitude 5.9 and 9.8. They are easily split. Higher magnification is required to see all 5 stars, though. Dave Hutchinson's recommends 200 power or more and mentions that the 2 stars show a nice color contrast. Another star is 8 Lacerta. It's an Astronomical League double star club, and it's another easy to split double star. The primary star shines at 5.7 magnitude and magnitude 6.5 companion. They're 22.3 arc seconds away from each other. Dave Hutchinson writes that this is a good double star for checking your eye's ability to determine differences in magnitude. In his Deep Sky Wonders column of the late Walter Scott Houston, noted that the 2 more stars of 9th and 10th magnitude lie at 82 degrees and 49 degrees, 82 arc minutes and 49 arc minutes from the primary, may be part of the same physical system. Slide master, slide number 20. NGC 7243 is an open cluster, the first of 3 mentioned in an article in the Spectrum. That's the newsletter for the Astronomy Club. Dave Hutchinson writes that Stephen James Amir writes about the observing this cluster with the naked eye in his book, the Caldwell objects. If a sharp-eyed observer can see the cluster without optical aid, then it would probably make a fairly good object in binoculars. That's why NGC 7243 makes it into the Binocular Deep Sky Club from the Astronomical League. Slide master, slide number 21. NGC 7209. The Star Lizard Cluster. Isn't that appropriate for this constellation? It's another open cluster. Is easily enough to in binoculars, and it's also in the Urban Observing Club for the Astronomical League. Can be resolved with small apertures, and Walter Scott Houston notes that in low power it stands out nicely from the Milky Way. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 22. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Lacerta the Lizard. I've given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 96 different observing programs. Most of them have about 100 objects. So if you observe just 10 different objects in the observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide master, slide number 23. That is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Lacerta the Lizard. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also use the website constellation-guide.com for information. And next week we'll take a look at Aquarius, the water bear. Are we in the age of Aquarius? Oh, that's a different topic. That's astrology. This is astronomy. And this is KF5JJ. Chaz saying good night, and 73 back to our net control.
Oh, Okay, thank you so much, Chaz. We appreciate Constellation of the Week. We are at 10:30. The repeater has gone back into normal state. Tom, do you want to try to do any of this satellite or space launch stuff?
No, probably not. If you want to check the launch schedule, go to spaceflight.now.com/launch schedule. All these flights are available.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Back to you, KE5I6.
Okay, thank you, Tom. All righty. Well, we are out of time, so not a lot of time for anything but any final check-ins. Does anybody want to get on the list before I close Skynet? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. All right, all is quiet. Let me do a quick count here. It appears that we have the participation of about 17 hams this evening on Skynet. Not too bad during football season. We hope that you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net controls. So, if you want to contact nets at w5fc.org, please do so. You can follow the topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as find our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org. Until next Saturday night, this is ND5F. My name is Virginia, and I will be closing this net at 10:31 local time and returning to the repeater to normal amateur use for very few minutes until Afterglow Movie Net begins. 73, everybody, and enjoy this evening discovering the universe. And we'll be back here to start Afterglow in about 5 minutes. This is Virginia ND5F.
Yep, come back in 5 minutes. You've got about 4 minutes to make some popcorn and bring it back. So microwave some popcorn and come back for tonight's movie, Deep Space from 1988. KE5, I see it.
This is N5BB. The only comment I wanted to make was about Gus's comments about Apollo 7. The Apollo 7 command module was on display in Canada for 30 years. Then, 21 years ago, with the help of Walt Cunningham, it was moved to the Frontiers of Flight Museum right here in Dallas. So you can see an Apollo capsule from Apollo 7 on permanent display at the Frontiers of Flight Museum in Dallas. That's all I wanted to comment on. N5BB.
Okay, it's that time. And that time is the Afterglow Movie Net. What is the Afterglow Movie Net? Well, everybody really does know, and everybody listening who doesn't know, I'll tell you really quick. We watch a usually not very good movie. This one fits that category quite well, and then we discuss it. And this week's movie is called Deep Space from 1988. It's a sci-fi horror flick by Fred Olen Ray, who made a bunch of really low-budget horror flicks. This one stars Chuck Napier. Chuck Napier is an actor. He's gone now, but you may remember him as Adam from The Way to Eden. He played a space hippie on Star Trek. Yeah, he played a space hippie. And then I think it was 30 years later on Deep Space Nine, he played a military general, not a space hippie. It also had Bo Svensson in it, yeah, that guy, and Ann Turkle. I don't know who she is. Napier stars as a cop trying to stop a murderous rampage of an escaped creature engineered by the government. This is a little bit Alien, a little bit Andromeda Strain, and a whole bunch of not very good from either of those films. Anyway, let me read you the plot really quick. The team working on a U.S. military satellite under the direction of a head scientist, Forsyth, loses control of a precious satellite. They realize they cannot prevent its crash to Earth in 2 hours. Upon impact, the satellite breaks open, but its contents remain inert. Forsyth informs an officer in charge, General Randolph, of the situation. The satellite contains a biological weapon of a whole new genre, an actual sentient creature nicknamed Centaur. Yeah. Randolph wants the beast destroyed using a remote emergency system, but Forsyth is reluctant and wants to minimize the risks, arguing that there is little risk that it will wake up. However, a couple passing by disturbs the creature's sleep and gets killed for setting it loose. Bad couple. Now there's a whole bunch of movie tropes. The monster escapes towards Los Angeles and begins to terrorize its citizens. Meanwhile, a veteran police lieutenant in McLemore is introduced to a newly transferred colleague from Atlanta. Ah, yes, the cop buddy thing. Carla Sanborn, whom he sympathizes. Their superior, Captain Robertson, attempts to dissuade Sanborn from working with Lamore, as the latter has a reputation of getting involved in dangerous situations, which he always seems to come out of unscathed, while his partner seldom lives to tell the tale. McLemore is informed of an incoming call from a woman who claims to be a psychic and needs to talk to him, but refuses to take it. Instead, he leaves for Innsmouth Road, where the double homicide scene has been discovered, where his regular partner, Jerry Maris, is. There they find a large pod that seems to be made of a hard yet organic material, as well as several similar small objects. He insists that he and Jerry steal 2 of the smaller pods and take them home to investigate further, as he fears a cover-up is afoot. Meanwhile, a large one is taken to a local forensics lab. During the night, the examiner Rogers is hacked to pieces by an unknown force. Testing also reveals the fragments of an unknown metal retrieved from the crime scene do not match any other known metals. This metal, they attempt to return to the crime scene, and they are barred from entering by military police, led by a mysterious suit who points his gun at them. Later, they see the same man exiting Robertson's office, who soon after informs them that the deaths have been ruled accidental, despite blatant evidence to the contrary. Back at his home, Lamore receives another call from the psychic who earlier tried to contact him at the station. The woman named Lady Ann Wentworth claims to have known what happened the previous night. Sanborn joins Lamore and they enjoy a date. Lamore remembers his pod, and the 2 go to an entomologist that Lamore knows who the previous encounter taking the pod. Drill a hole and open the latches when the creature inside attacking the entomologist in Sandburg. The creature is destroyed by a terrarium filled with gas, and the entomologist is wheeled away by the paramedics. McLemore recalls Maris's pod. He and Sanborn go to Maris' house to find that the pod is still hatched, and Maris is killed. Chase ensues news in a second. Creature is finally killed. Lady Elaine calls Mayor's home to tell them McLemore where the original creature is. They find the location, and Sandborg calls for backup. The creature eventually fights McLemore and is winning until Sandborg and Robertson, who have just arrived, attack. The distraction allows McLemore to decapitate the creature with a chainsaw. Oh boy. I'd read you the history of this thing, but you don't need to know. It doesn't matter. It was delayed until it was finally released in 1988 on VHS and Betamax. Probably the most amazing thing is this thing was re-released on Blu-ray. Why, I don't know. It was bad enough in Blu-ray Betamax. This was struck to a new master made by the right holders of MGM, includes feature-length audio commentary. Why? There you have it. There's some other things in here, some humorous moments that try to keep one from thinking too hard about how much the monster resembles H.R. Geiger's bigger budget creation. There's Biohazard, BBC, Radio Times, gave it moderately favorable. I guess, you know, if you like that sort of thing, or Bargain Basement special, this would be the one. Well, with that, I probably sufficiently depressed you. So let's go ahead and take check-ins. I'll take your call sign name. And did you see tonight's movie, Deep Space from 1988? Here we go.
This is November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony in Bird City. No, I did not watch this movie, but I'll be happy to listen to everyone else trash it.
So I can't compete with football this evening. I got Tony, NT5TM. Anyone else?
November Victor 5 Foxtrot. I'm Virginia. That's it. I'm Virginia in Fort Worth. I did see this movie, and Tony, how could you betray us by not watching it in V5F?
This is WB5OZL, and name is Brenda, and I did see this movie.
Okay, we picked up in the 5F Virginia. She admits she saw the film, and WB5OZL Brenda in places far away. She also admits to having seen the film, so we're up to at least 3 of us have seen this fine film. Anyone else want to check in? Even if they haven't seen the film, it's okay. You can check in and proudly say, I have not seen this film. Okay, there may be stragglers coming. Let me look up here and see. No, I don't see anybody on Echolink either. Oh well, slim pickings tonight, kids. We'll start with Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, what do you think about the plot for our fine film? I know you. I don't know. Go ahead. From K5 ICX.
Okay, well, I understood the plot. I couldn't say why anyone did anything they did, why the government would be motivated to engineer a creature that looks like an alien, which is clearly a ripoff of the plot Alien, even though Alien was a real alien, but it was being sort of sponsored by the government to somehow make it back to Earth for whatever crazy reasons they did that. But this one, they're just like, hey, we're going to make this fake version of Ridley Scott's Alien, but it's not going to really be an alien? I don't know. Anyway, it had the typical things, tropey stuff like teenagers making out in the woods and getting a flat tire, and then seeing a spacecraft crash, and just everything about it. The whole plot was like that, just predictable. There was the lovable drunk bum guy who sees the alien and then I guess goes to be asked about its I shouldn't call it an alien. It's not an alien. Anyway, yeah, the plot, I understood it. It was lame. It was predictable. You could probably figure out in the first scene, if you were trying to, you could probably figure out who was going to get killed by the end of the movie. And that pretty much all happened. And of course the couple, the good-looking guy and the good-looking gal, they survived. So it killed a lot of people. It had all the little, I guess, sub-aliens that were like the little face-hugger things in Alien. It was so obviously ripped off from Alien, except that it all took place on Earth, so I guess they thought no one would notice. I don't know. It seems like a year ago or so we watched this other movie with a creature that was obviously ripped off from Alien as well. I'm trying to remember that one. That was a really bad one too. So yeah, you get a good-looking cop from out of town. You get a kind of cop who's he's sort of phoning everything in, and then this thing, and he's the only one that can kill it, and teenagers die, and hobos die, and scientists die, and everyone lives happily ever after. The end in V5F.
Oh, thank you, Virginia. I can tell that you were just totally mesmerized by this fine film. Yeah, okay. Let's move on to Brenda, who is trapped in her hotel room in some pioneer village thing somewhere. Brenda, WD5OZL, you saw the film last night. I think you stayed awake through most of it. What did you think about the plot from KE5 ICX?
This is WB5OZL. Yeah, I stayed awake through the whole thing. I left town today. I'm down here in LaGrange for a family reunion, not some pioneer thing this time. But let's see. So this movie was ridiculous. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think of some redeeming feature. Most of the people were not too ugly, I'll say that. it did rip off Aliens so badly. And did they think nobody would notice? Did they care? Basically, it was just kind of a splatter movie. Blood and guts with, we would call them aliens because they look like aliens. And they run around, chase each other. You know, I think it was just dumb. I'm sorry, it was just dumb. And I'm having trouble finding any redeeming feature. I don't know what else to say. Back to that WB5OZL.
Oh my, well, what can you say? There wasn't much to say about the film. Okay, well, anyone else want to check in tonight to the Afterglow Movie Net? Tonight's movie is Deep Space from 1988, Alien on Earth. Hey, Alien Earth. They redid the story, only they kept the cop out of it. But who knows? At any rate, anyone else want to check in? Please come down. Okay, well, it's going to be one of those evenings, I guess. My comments on this film. I was trying to understand, maybe I'm a little dense and a little slow, but I was trying to figure out if this was indeed like a comedy or a horror story drama or something. I suspect it was kind of a combination of both, but I'm not so sure. I mean, it was all this stuff, all the silly things that you would expect in a film. You know, when they went to Chuck's apartment, we need weapons. You know, we got to defend Earth, and he goes behind a picture frame, and there's a handgun behind the picture frame, a large handgun, and then underneath his couch, underneath the cushions, he finds that he's got an even bigger gun. And he hands her the one gun, and then he takes the bigger gun because he's going to use it to stop the monster. There's that. And then there's the almost cigar-chewing, he was the cigar-chewing guy, I guess. I love the fact that he was doing, I'm not sure. We'll have to ask somebody who plays bagpipes what do they think. And I think I know somebody who might comment on that on the next round. What else was there? You're off the case. Go home. You're on vacation. All of the tropes you expect from a dumb cop movie is in this. The partner thing and everything. So I'm thinking it's like Sledgehammer or, the comedy that actually came out, I think, after that. Maybe before. No, I think it did come out before that. I think it was 86 or something, Sledgehammer came out. But, which was a comedy. It was one of those comedies that came out after Top Gun, Top Secret, I think, or the airplane movies. So anyway, hard to figure out. I don't know. The creature made no sense. What was it doing in orbit? Why are they so blasé about the thing? When did they find it? Why did they find it? What was its mission? Why did they bring it home? I don't know. Maybe I could fill in the plot using Alien Earth, I suppose, which is the latest series that's on TV. As a bioweapon, I suppose. But it was a pretty stupid bioweapon with spaghetti-like little tentacles. and you could cut them with garden shears and stop it from its evil ways, I guess. It didn't seem really effective. It did kill a lot of dumb people that didn't know enough to get away from it. And we don't know how it killed because it was a puppet, and the puppet isn't very convincing trying to gnaw at you with its little puppet teeth. So I guess with those things, it wasn't really convincing. But they had a budget. I guess he had a lot more money than he normally has for movies. Fred did, so who knows. Okay. All right, I don't have much more to say. It's going to be a really fast one tonight, I guess. Let's go up to characterization. Oh, anybody else want to check in? Come on, somebody wants to check in. I know they do. Man, oh man. Okay, let's go to Virginia and V5F. It's going to be a quickie. What did you think of our characters?
Well, just predictable. You have the cop, the hard-boiled cop guy who's a little careless and a little not too worried about anything and has giant guns everywhere, and then you've got his partner who is sort of the, he looked like he was from Hall & Oates or something. He had like those 80s sweaters and the hair and the mustache. So yeah, he was kind of tropey too. I wasn't real surprised when he got killed. It was sad though. I felt bad for him. And then you've got I can't figure out, and pardon me, because sometimes I'll get to doing other things while I'm watching the movie, and I sometimes miss things, and I'm trying to figure out where this psychic character came in, who seemed to know things, and what was the point of that? Did that really didn't mean anything in the story. The heroine was, I have seen her in a couple of other shows, like she did TV stuff, and she was okay, but she seemed a little bit squeamish for a cop. She was, she wasn't seen in uniform after the beginning, and she just was always screaming and being upset by how gross everything was. The teenagers were teenagers. You kind of knew they were going to get killed, and all the other people were stereotypes. Even the lovable drunk guy who, lived out in the woods. I liked him the best. I wish he hadn't been killed. The alien, I guess it was an alien. Still trying to figure out if they engineered it or had to put it in space to engineer it, and then it came back down. I guess technically it was an alien. Anyway, the alien, Lord, it needed orthodontia really bad. I don't know how it could manage to kill anybody. It could hardly get its mouth closed. And there were times when it was being beaten in a fight where it made these, groaning, growly alien sounds, and there were times when the sounds almost sounded like it was supposed to be sympathetic, like you were supposed to feel bad for it, that it was actually losing the fight. Which I thought that was hilarious, and its little, like, tentacle spaghetti lasso things. I guess if it tied you up with enough of those, it could defeat you. But yeah, it was pathetic. And all the little smaller aliens, they were more scary. They were kind of like the little face hugger things in Alien. They were just more terrifying because they were small, and it was supposed to be portrayed that they were kind of like those. They could kind of move really fast, and jump on your face, and they even did the whole, like it was in the guy's chest at one point. I mean, it was such a ripoff of Alien. So, yeah, acting in this was fair. It was TV movie grade or TV episode grade or lower. But it was about what you would expect for a B-horror science fiction thing in 1988. But when I think about other, like, legit movies that came out in 1988, it makes this movie look about 10 years behind everything. It was so low budget. It was so bad. Like, you know, it was just... So the actors were fair to bad. You know, and then you have some character actors that you probably see in a few other things, and then people who didn't have a clue how to act, and they just had a few lines, and so you didn't know. But yeah, that's it. I didn't really have a favorite character except maybe the, I don't know, maybe the hobo guy. He's my favorite. So yeah, it was fair to okay acting, and characters were predictable, and you know, you knew who was going to live and who was going to die. So, not pretty basic stuff. Back to that NV5F.
Alright, thanks. I had a voiceover. I was giving me time or something over here, and it covered you up at the very end. I think you're done. Okay. Next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, your thoughts on characterization from KE5 ICX.
This is WB5OZL. Yeah, I kind of like the old drunk guy too. He was kind of fun. You know, the aliens are not believable. They were puppets, bad ones. They filmed everything in the dark, so they didn't have to show you much in the way of special effects. I don't know what their budget was, but it couldn't have been much. For characters or actors. There were only one or two people in here I think I'd ever seen before. But you know, but wouldn't hold that against them. The music was just appalling. But that's not characters. I don't know if anybody remembers. There used to be in you remember the daily newspaper, the Dallas Morning News? There was a guy named Joe Bob Briggs, not his real name. He was the drive-in movie critic, and every week he had a column where he critiqued movies like this. You would have liked it, but he'd grade them like body count or heads, how many heads roll, and this had a really high body count score, I think. So, yeah, it had all the right things, or all the wrong things, all the wrong reasons. And the woman cop was not believable as a cop. And it was really offended how she just ripped off her clothes for very little provocation. She should have at least made it worth his time. Or, you know, played a little hard to get instead of just, yeah, here I am. I found that a little bit cheap. But I guess that was her character. Well, that's about all I got to say. W5OZL.
thanks, Brenda. Yeah, I kind of agree with you both. They were all caricatures, of course, but I do have to say something, and this is from the wiki as well. They had a lot of interesting character actors in this thing. These are the performances themselves, while kind of over the top, came from actors who typically do over the top stuff anyway. I mean, we got. I didn't recognize him. He looked familiar to me, and. One was playing Jerry Maris was Ron Glass. Ron Glass is a guy we should have all recognized. He was in Barney Miller as Detective Ron Harris. And then for those of us who are Firefly fans, he played the Shepherd Brook, in the Firefly series. And so he was quite fun. Bo Svensson's been in a bunch of different things, mostly B-rated movies. He's playing what he always plays, some sort of cop. Julie Newmar, we remember her as Catwoman, one of the three Catwomen. She was in it, so that was pretty good. And then Chuck himself, he was always a character actor. He always played either cop, military, space hippie, I guess we can add that to his list as well. CD aficionado, that sort of thing. But yeah, he just played Chuck again. What are the bigger-than-life characters? So all of the actors, all of the characters were kind of stereotypes. The general over-the-top military type. The doctor totally into what he's doing, trying to go forward. The Julie Newmar as the psychic, doing the psychic stuff. These are all things we've seen in episodes of Columbo and television shows galore. I mean, this was just one script with pieces ripped out and put in and shoved together. And all the characters were playing typical stereotype characters. So, what is it you want from this production, I guess? But it was mildly entertaining, as long as you just didn't take it for what it was. It's terrible. There is a mention in here, too. I'll fill this out since we're going to end early anyway. Is this thing was $2 million budget, which was pretty hefty for that kind of a film, a low-budget film. The other thing was it had 5 different endings that were filmed for this thing, and I guess the company that owned it at the time viewed all the endings and picked from the 5 endings. So that was a big expense to make that happen. Why they picked the decapitation? It's like, who cares? It's a horror film. That's typical kind of ending for horror films. So I don't know what the other 4 were. Probably typical endings for horror films. Some other appendage gets cut off. Who knows? But oh well. Not the best film in the world, but I think the thing that did happen, though, is that the actors did manage to carry the characters on what was basically a pretty terrible script. So sometimes the actors can save the day on a movie that probably wouldn't have made it otherwise. So who knows? But again, I think the most amazing thing is this thing that actually was put out on Blu-ray, although I didn't see the Blu-ray version. I saw a blurry Betamax version, I think, complete with line tearing and retrace and all that good stuff. Okay, anyone else out there would like to check in? I'll give you a chance now. Okay, Tony, you still out there? You want any, got any comments you want to make? I know you didn't see the film, probably on purpose, but do you have anything to say about fine B-rated films?
Good evening. Yeah, this sounded pretty bad to me. So Aaron and I decided to try the Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick remake of The Producers, which was good but not great, although in different spots. That made the original good, but not great. So it was a fun night, and last part of the movie was just a little too draggy. But hey, it was still a much better movie than this one, and I had no idea Matthew Broderick could sing. I think that was my most surprising discovery of the weekend. So, nope, I have no plans to see this in the future either. NV5TM.
Okay, Tony. Well, good. Actually, I agree with you. Mel Brooks, my favorite Mel Brooks film is the original producers with Cyril Mostel and Gene Wilder. I think it was Gene Wilder's first big break in the film. The musical version, not so good. I did like the full Springtime for Hitler. That was a lot of fun. But it kind of fell flat. I didn't feel the performances were as good. I would have liked to have seen the stage play. That probably would have been better. But yeah, they're both Matthew Broderick can sing. Yes, he can. And it was okay. It was okay. I didn't mind it. I've got a copy here, but I rarely watch it. I watch the original version far more frequently than I do the musical one. Okay, we'll do one more round, and that's it, kids. This will be over really quick tonight, which I guess is okay. Special effects, anything you want to add? We'll start with Virginia and V5F. You got anything you want to add?
Well, all you need to know is that everything is showbiz. Well, they were, as expected, just bad. Cheesy puppets, blood being thrown against walls. That's one of my favorite things in bad horror movies. Is we watched that one a while back that was like that. It was, you know, they were just cut to the wall, and someone was obviously just throwing blood, you know, at characters or against the wall. Greatness. That's, you know, that's the only reason to watch something like this, is so you can scoff at it. Let's see. So yeah, special effects, puppets, not great. The alien was cheesy. The sound effects were cheesy. The music was cheesy. I mean, the music for this is a master class in cheap 80s synthesizer score, where you just hire a guy with a keyboard to probably just kind of, you know, play along with your movie and try to come up with something not terrible. This brings me back to what I didn't address about characters, is the bagpiping thing. I think they were trying to find some surprising thing about this guy, and since he had like a Scottish type name, you know, his name was McClellan or something, they were like, oh, let's have him, because if you're Scottish, you have to be able to play the bagpipes. It's like Scotty in Star Trek. Like, back then, every Scottish person, that was like a latent thing about them, that they were also, you know, they learned to play the bagpipes maybe when they were a kid. But, of course, they still have a set of bagpipes, and they, you know, whip them out to impress hot chicks. So the music that they used there was so terrible. It was obviously like really bad synthesizer music. They didn't even try to make it sound like a real bagpipe. There was like, they could have probably hired someone to play bagpipes, or gotten an old, you know, public domain bagpipe recording of some kind and had him just, you know, synchronize, try to, you know, sync, like pretend he was playing along to the music. But no, they just had the keyboard synthesizer guy try to play something that was ridiculous. It was so bad. It is one of those things, Tom, that makes you wonder, is this a parody of some kind? Is it like Sledgehammer or Naked Gun or something? I mean, it's just ridiculous. So yeah, music bad, special effects bad. Everything about it was very Bush League. It felt like a made-for-TV movie. It felt like it was, made in the late 70s versus the late 80s. It was just, can't think of anything really redeeming here, pretty much. And, Julie Newmar, that was a typical, we've got $2 million, let's spend, like a tenth of our budget on, paying Julie Newmar to be some character that's not even necessary to the story, just to get people to come to the movie. Whatever, man. Okay, that's it for me. I'm super tired. I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. But I will stick around till the end. I might have another scathing, withering sort of comment for the end. Back to net in V5F.
Oh, thank you for those comments. You breathe new sarcasm and life into this discussion. Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty terrible. There's no doubt about it. Okay, Brenda, WB50ZL, your comments, whatever you want from KE5 ICX.
This is WB50ZL. I can't believe I missed Ron Glass in this. I'm a big Firefly fan, and I just did not recognize him. I knew Julie Newmar was in it, but I thought, a has-been actress that needs to make rent. It's just so pitiful. I was interested in the bagpipe scene. It's just not something you see very often, where a guy's trying to set a romantic mood, and normally he puts on some soft music or bolero or something kind of romantic. I've never seen anybody whip out the bagpipes in full dress and try to impress a lady with that. So that was different, I'll have to say. I'm not a musician, but my sense is he didn't play very well. I wasn't real sure. It's hard to tell with bagpipes. But it was probably, just some cheap synthesizer knockoff. And I think it kind of missed the mark. What else? It's amazing how if you could put a few bucks together, you too can make a movie. Like, why? Because it lives forever with your name on it. You really need to be more careful, people, because this thing lives forever. Did they think they would make money? Who knows? I wish they were here to ask. The aliens were grotesque. It was such a knockoff of Alien and Aliens and all of those. It was just, you couldn't have any imagination whatsoever. So, and then it was just, how gross can we be? How much whatever that was splattered, and the monster grunting piteously, which I didn't have much sympathy for him, but I don't know what that was about. Okay, I'm going to call it quits. This is WB50ZL. Back to that.
Thank you, Brenda. My only comment on all of this is I agree with you, Virginia, on the music or lack thereof. That was pretty uninspiring. In fact, it was annoying. And I am pretty sure Amnesty International has that movie score on their list of unusual punishments for people. I just hear that in the background, you know. All right, I'll talk. You can't use that music to coerce a confession out of people. It's inhumane. And here's the scene with the alien being decapitated. No, I can't listen to that music. It is so terribly, simplistically dumb. Yeah. Okay. I can't believe this thing came out on Blu-ray. Why in any rate, okay. Anything else to say? Nothing in the special effects. Everything was at night. That's always good. It worked for Alien, so I figured there'd be, you know, a budget of 1/100th what the alien creature cost. For the same reason, they go and they use it. Oh, by the way, just to mention for Alien Earth, you know, spoiler alert, there's a scene with the alien outside in broad daylight and it's sunny and everything. And you say, it looks so realistic. The CGI is amazing. No. They didn't do CGI. They put a guy in a rubber suit, just like they did in the original. A guy in a rubber suit. It's a much more expensive rubber suit than what they had originally, but you know, there's a guy in a rubber suit, okay? That's the way they do it. And it worked out quite fine. By the way, if you get to see that series, I just finished up the first season. It wasn't bad. A lot of creepy, crawly stuff in it. It's quite good, I thought. Very interesting. The little eyeball thing, the octopus eyeball thing is pretty cool. You'll see he makes his appearance and disappearance in the most interesting way. Cute little guy with a little eyeball with lots of little pupils in it. Really cute. Well, I really does eyeball things. You'll find out. Okay, I guess that's about it. Anyone have any additional comments they want to make before we close it up? And I'll tell you what next week's movie is. I think you'll like next week's movie. Okay, well, we've tried the horrible genre, and we're going to move on to something different. There was a pilot for a series called Mockingbird Lane. You can think about that one about half a second and figure out what this one's about. It's called Mockingbird Lane. I think it came out in 2018. It was on ABC. It did not get picked up for a series, but it was a Halloween October special, and I think you'll like it. I'll see, I found a version of it that I think is watchable. I've got to double check it to make sure it's good. If it doesn't work, I'll try something different, but I look for it this evening. It looks like it's acceptable. So on, we'll have that, Mockingbird Lane TV series that I think you'll recognize as a reboot. So we'll be doing that next week. I'll send out the information. Hopefully I'll get it out tomorrow morning, or at least tomorrow afternoon. I won't be doing anything. I'm still grounded right now. It's been a whole week and it's driving me crazy. Well, almost a week. Little injuries kept me from getting out early morning and doing my run routine, but maybe get back to it Monday or Tuesday. We'll see. Okay. I guess we'll button it up and call it done for this week. We'll be here next week with 2018's Mockingbird Lane. And hopefully get some of our regular people back. I think probably people aren't watching because of football, college, and NFL's in full swing right now, so that may have something to do with it. I don't know. Well, it couldn't be the fact that we've had really back-to-back terrible movies, but who knows? Maybe. We'll see you next week. This is KE5 ICX signing off for now.